Hey guys, welcome to another video. It's a Saturday here today and I'm just at a truck stop. We've got the car trailer and the X5. We're heading down to Goulburn to pick up an engine. Unfortunately, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, I was at Sydney Motorsport Park in the convertible E46 330 Ci, which is my wet weather warrior drift car, and insert a couple of video clips here. As you can see, the thing is so much fun, and I bought that quite cheap. It's definitely rough around the edges, but it's done a lot of track days. I think that was the 6th track day that I've done, and then unfortunately the motor went pop, as you can see. And yeah, upon inspection there's a nice big hole in the block. The car actually caught fire because something definitely went wrong. It went pop and it sounded terrible. And I was starting to pull over, engine was still on, and there was a bit of fire that ended up having to get put out. So for the second time I've actually been on fire on the racetrack, which is pretty cool. I've probably done 60 or 70 track days over the last few years. And yeah, so the car, that was probably the 6th or the 7th track day. Each track day in the wet weather warrior car we do about 60 to 70 laps, which is just crazy, and because we always go on the wet days and we don't use any tires, so the cost of driving and drifting that car is super low. So to say that the motor or the car had its day and I definitely got my dollars worth from it is 100% true. And now we're off to Goulburn to go and get another motor and put that in. So I'll take you along for the ride. It's a bit longer than I expected. So we have the motor. It's nice and dirty. There's a big question mark. I don't know if it's going to be good. I don't know if it's going to be bad. Hopefully it's not bad. Hopefully it runs. So yeah, I've just been watching a video from a friend of mine, Max Wright, and he's been going over some really interesting topics around the cryptocurrency space. And I just thought I'd touch upon it a bit. I'm actually going to add a snippet from his video after I kind of talk about a couple of different things so that you can hear it straight from the horse's mouth. But the reason why, I know I don't really have a really great backdrop today, but I'm on the side of the road at Marulan. So the reason why this time's different for the cryptocurrency space is back in 2017, one of the reasons why I didn't sell out of a lot of my positions is because I didn't want to treat it capital gains events. I didn't want to have to pay massive amounts of tax. So I chose to hold my positions for much longer than I should have. Now, as we know, the market crashed. I was up a lot. I'm still up plenty, but I was up a lot more back then. But I didn't want to treat it that capital gains event because I didn't want to have to pay massive amounts of tax. Now, the space has evolved to the point, and it's the same as in traditional markets. Like Bill Gates, if he wants to buy a house, as Max Wright talks about, he doesn't go and sell some shares. He borrows against his assets, which is his share price, which keeps going up. And hopefully there's not too much wind. So he borrows against his share price at an interest rate and doesn't have to pay capital gains on the sale of his asset. You can now do that with cryptocurrency. So in the next run, I'm planning a couple of different strategies. One, I want to buy a nice car and probably a Lamborghini, and I'm going to end up borrowing against my cryptocurrency rather than selling it to invest more in property. And then my intention there is to get a mortgage against that property and pull 80% of the property's value out, and then go and pay back my cryptocurrency loan, and then repeat the cycle. And as you can start to see, this is a very, very powerful way to increase your wealth, to leverage yourself against yourself. So that's something we didn't have before. We didn't have that in 2017. The other thing that we didn't have is the COVID situation, which is going to trigger massive amounts of money printing worldwide, which is already doing it, and which could quite possibly trigger the BTC price to really skyrocket. And Max will talk about that in his video, which I'll link to below. I'll also put a snippet of it here after I finish talking. And the biggest thing is, if a black swan event, which is one of the big global banks, fails, Deutsche Bank or one of the US banks, and there's a bail-in or a government step-in situation. Bail-in is when the bank can no longer service its debts, and it uses customers' money to pay for the debt, so that they're not going to run out of cash and completely go bankrupt. And that means that you as a depositor is the financier to keeping the bank afloat, which means that you're doing 50 cents or 60 cents or 70 cents on the dollar or less of your money, so that they can, fix their mistakes. So if that happens, it's going to cause a massive flight from bank money to cryptocurrency to Bitcoin, because people just won't trust the banks anymore. So that's very, very possible. If that does happen, there's a very, very high chance that BTC could go to 500k in the next couple of years. If it doesn't happen, there's a very good chance that it's going to go to 100k. And that's what's going to trigger hyperinflation. So the dollar can be printed forever, whereas BTC is a finite amount and it can't inflate. The price can inflate, but you can't deflate by printing more BTC. So keeping cash is risk without any reward, whereas BTC is having risk with a possibility of great reward. Again, this is not financial advice. I'm not your financial advisor. Please get proper advice before making any decisions. And that's pretty much it. Max will go into this in greater detail. He's been following the space since before I started in 2013. He was probably 2011, 2012. I've also known him for over 10 years. So very, very smart guy, very, very easy to watch. And go and have a watch now.
Now, what if this year is different? What if it's not decreasing downwards? What if this year is different? And let me point out, there's some reasons why things could be different. And it might be way different to the upside, okay? And I'm going to get into the experts' opinions in just a minute, right? But let's come up with some ideas about why things could be completely different. We might go full screen for this. So, I think there are two huge things that make this particular bull run very, very different. First is this. The type of person coming into it is a much more institutional type of player. This is like, like major listed companies listed on the stock exchange who have they move like the Titanic. They've got boards to discuss with, and if they invest in Bitcoin, it's not one person makes a decision. It goes, no, there's boards and there's CEOs and CFOs and lawyers, and 50 people have to sign off on this thing. And it takes them a long time to get in a position. And then it come in with a position like, let's speculate. Like, let's say you're a tech company and you're Twitter, for example, or Square. You don't just come in and say, oh, let's just go and invest in Bitcoin tomorrow. Okay, done. It's like, no. It's very well thought out, very well managed. It's things along the line of, let's allocate 10% of our cash away into Bitcoin and away from cash, right? So we used to have a big bank account there of $200 million. Let's take $20 million, stick it in Bitcoin. We're just going to leave it there for 20 years and see what happens. That's the type of mentality they have. It's not I'm going to get in, I'm going to make money on this 2021 legendary year. It is not how they think. It is not how they play. They have a business. They have shareholders. They have their business is to make money on their business. It is not there to make money speculating on Bitcoin. So they do not have that mentality. So in addition, you've got massive companies coming in. You've got big families coming in. This is private money from owners of big companies who are not on the stock exchange, but still, these things have, it's not one person making a decision. There's a lot more people making decisions. They have a lot longer time horizon. So reason number one, it's a different type of human coming in. They are coming in over this year, next year, and the years after that. They're coming in with a much longer point of view. Okay? Different. Step number two. Reason number two. So we've got different people coming in. Next, we have more sophisticated methods of handling our profits. In 2013 and 2017, the price goes up 10x and you want to buy yourself a Lamborghini or a nice new house. What do? You've got one option. You sell your Bitcoin, cash in the profits, pay a huge chunk in capital gains, and go and buy your Lambo. That's the only option you have. This year sees something different. The space has matured, the space has developed, and we can now do things that have been very well understood and accepted on the stock market and in other areas where you don't have to sell your assets. You use them as collateral and borrow against them, and you go and spend the cash. Significantly, you have not triggered a taxable event. You never sold the Bitcoin, you just borrowed against it, meaning that you do not have to pay capital gains tax on it. You get to keep so much more of it. So now, for the first time ever, people can cash out their profits without selling the Bitcoin. This has been going on for decades in the stock market. Bill Gates wants to buy a new house. He doesn't have to sell his shares in Microsoft to go and buy his house. No, he can use his shares as collateral to borrow against, go and buy his house. Yes, he has to pay interest on that money, but meanwhile his Microsoft shares keep going up. And he gets to remain exposed, remain the owner. This has gone on in all the other markets for decades. This cycle is the very first time Bitcoin gets to participate in that kind of a move. Okay? And then I said I mentioned two, but I'm going to mention one more. We've had what will later become known as the Great Reset, the new Great Financial Crisis, Global Financial Crisis 2.0, the new Great Depression, whatever the hell this is going to be renamed, it has begun. COVID was the trigger, but this was a massive, massive, massive bubble that was bound to pop. Bubbles always find pins to prick it. This one found a shotgun in COVID, and we have not seen the full effects of this. 2021 is going to wreak havoc. Countries, sovereigns around the world are going to be printing trillions upon trillions upon trillions of dollars. And whether or not we'll hit hyperinflation or a high inflation scenario remains to be seen. But believe me, investors understand the dollars, they can print forever. Bitcoin, there will only be 21 million of them. That's it. No one can inflate my Bitcoin away. My other assets, they can be inflated away. My cash, it can be inflated away. Cash, I can stick it in the bank and get zero interest. In some countries, negative. I have to pay for the privilege of saving, all right? And I have the massive, massive risk of bank failures, inflation, all these problems. I go to Bitcoin, I get zero interest, same or better as leaving money in cash. I have zero chance of inflation, and I have zero chance of the bank that it's with or whatever collapsing and only getting pennies on the dollar. Keeping cash is risk without reward. Bitcoin is reward with very, very little risk. Okay? Not your financial planner, do your own decision. But that is the difference. So, could we do something obscene? Could we do something absolutely crazy? Let's check it out. Oh, you can't see me. Let's get back to the charts. And then we'll get to what some of the experts say here. We will go here. What if? This is going to get a little bit ridiculous. What if this was 5,000%? 5,000%. What if we did 2,000%? Right here, head up. 2,000%. Where'd you go? 2,000% would put Bitcoin at $370,000 per Bitcoin. Am I right? For shits and giggles, here's the thing. If we see a major black swan event, think Deutsche Bank collapses and the governments don't bail it out, they do a bail-in and all the depositors get 50 cents on the dollar, 60 cents on the dollar, 30 cents on the dollar. If any first world country has major banks collapsing and people are getting pennies on the dollar, they are not bailed out, we will see we'll see Bitcoin price absolutely explode. If you've got Bitcoin, are you selling it to put cash in the bank after you just watch a bank get chopped in half? No chance. Everyone who's got Bitcoin holds, no one sells. Everyone floods in, the price skyrockets. Any kind of black swan event where there is no bailout, we are talking about Bitcoin price going mental. You've got the whole world on lockdown. Is there a chance that we're going to see over the next few months massive, massive shock waves go through a very, very delicate financial system, as we learned all too recently in 2008? It's absolutely a possibility. If we get a black swan event, I'm telling you, 20 to 2,000% to 5,000% increase in Bitcoin is a possibility, in my opinion. Let's see how far this goes. What if Bitcoin went up 5,500% like years ago? We are talking about $1 million Bitcoin. Now, I'm not necessarily suggesting, this is not my prediction that it's going to happen. I'm just laying out the case for all these different levels. It has been done. Bitcoin has gone up 5,000% in a single year before. It was early on in its existence. I don't think the volatility is going to be such that it will do it in 1 year again, but it could happen. And if the world gets crazy enough, anything is possible. And I said, what if there's one of these banks that there's no bailout and there's a bail-in, and we're talking about people getting pennies on the dollar on their accounts at Deutsche Bank, as I use it as an example, right? But what if they do get bailed out? How many trillions of dollars will the governments of the world have to print to save their banks? You're sitting there, you're holding dollars, and you're watching trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars get printed. What do you think is going to happen to the value of your dollars, right? Might that make you scared? Might that make you want to jump into Bitcoin? I think perhaps it might. We could see an unbelievable year in 2021. How high it's going to go? We don't quite know.
So as you can see, he's a very smart guy, and he kind of nails the head. He's also like on that conservative side to the moonshot side as well, so you can see the both possibilities of what could happen here. Now, one of the reasons why I've kind of thrown that snippet in there is he's doing a webinar, which I'm going to link below, that I'd strongly recommend you watch. Again, he's been right about a lot of different things over the years. Max Wright has been right, and he is one to follow. So if you are on the fence about learning more, or you're just eager to make some more informed decisions around cryptocurrency, around global banking, all that sort of thing, please go watch this video. I know that there's a limited number of spots available, and I think you'll get massive amounts of value from it. So thanks again, Max, for putting on that webinar. And that's it from me today. It's been another sort of crazy vloggy type day. Again, if you have any questions, post them below, shoot me a message, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video. See ya.